Good morning, members. I call on the member for Cayman Brack West and Little Cayman to grace us with prayers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct, prosper the deliberations of the Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the premier, the speaker of the parliament, the leader of the opposition, ministers of the cabinet, ex officio members, members of parliament, the chief justice, and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask in thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. Lord, make his face shine upon us and be gracious upon us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated. Proceedings are resumed.
Madam Speaker, I want to rise on a matter of procedure, and it's to do with the order paper. And, Madam Speaker, it's the placing of business on the order paper. In this instance, Madam Speaker, private members' motions. Madam Speaker, while the standing orders don't say anything about the sequence of the business, two things are evident in our standing orders. It is private members' day. It is not opposition members' day. It is private members' business day. Precedent has been that the motions that place before the clerks and numbered is how they should be taken, unless some real overriding circumstance exists, like the government need more time to have a more considered position, or that the mover is not ready for the motion. But the numbering is not there for the sake of a number. Members go to work, put their work together, get a seconder, and place it as quick as possible before the clerks. And therefore, we normally would have taken that business first, unless, as I said, there is some overriding circumstance. I don't know in this instance why there is some reason why motion 11 is coming before motion 8. While it's important to remember both of us moving the motions are very important, no two ways about it, both of which I support. But, Madam Speaker, what I'm concerned about is timing in this House. I placed the motion some time ago, and I know that it probably would not have passed to do with the gaming law. I don't know where that motion is now. It's somewhere about in outer space because they created a committee which has never met. And so I have to be concerned because I'm not taking motions lightly. I have said, Madam Speaker, this is I am exiting politics. This is my last 2 years, but I want to see things done right because we have to be much more careful than ever before. The other matter, Madam Speaker, on a matter of procedure, is that today is Private Members' Day. And the standing orders is very clear. It's very clear. On all days other than Thursdays, government business shall have precedence over private members' business. On Thursdays, private members' notices of motion shall have precedence on the order paper, followed by private members' bills, followed by government business. As I said, every government has to organize themselves. But when you come to a position where you got so many reports, in this instance today we have 17 or 16 reports, and then those 16 reports, members tend to speak to their reports, whereas before, normally, very rare would members speak longer than a few minutes on a report, a later report. But now, that don't seem to be the norm. Today, that should all come, and if we can continue that way, and I wouldn't want to stop any minister from laying a report that they need to speak to. No. But then it should come after private members' business.
Thank you, Honourable Member for West Bay West. And if you just turn your mic off for me, please. I acknowledge the member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning. Madam Speaker, the member from West Bay West is absolutely right. This is a breach of the standing order that he referred to in the case of government businesses being put on the order paper ahead of private members' business. And Madam Speaker, I understand the member's concern because the day will be taken up with the laying of reports and papers, followed by questions. And the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 private members' motions will not get heard. And so, Madam Speaker, I am happy to let the member from West Bay West go ahead of me with my private members' motions on the condition that I am permitted to move a motion and that the member from West Bay West will hopefully second it, that this breach of standing orders that I referred to be what's the word I'm looking for? Be corrected by the removal of government business from the order paper, putting it over until tomorrow. And so, Madam Speaker, I would need your permission to move such a motion, and I so request of you.
Thank you, member for Red Bay. I know that the member for West Bay West did put me on notice last night that he intended to raise this matter, as he did in this honorable house. So I did a little bit of research, and in terms of the standing orders, I agree. Standing Order 14.3 does not expressly state that the motions are to be arranged in the sequence received. However, the Standing Business Committee, the resolution sets out that it's resolved that they are to consider the business papers of the House. My suggestion was going to be, or I was actually going to ask the member, I know he had referred to precedents, but I was going to ask if a member wanted to move a motion to amend the order of the business paper or order paper.
Madam Speaker, I think we should defer to the Premier and ask the Premier to consider what we're saying rather than go through a motion. The Premier can easily do that.
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, if I'm understanding the member from Red Bay correctly, he seems to be arguing that Standing Order 14, which sets out the order of business of a sitting, does not Madam Speaker, my issue at this point is the suggestion that the work of the Standing Business Committee, which has been established by resolution of this House, and given the remit by resolution of this House to determine the business for each sitting, and having done so, in the way that I have seen happen many, many times, even on Thursdays, which is normally opposition or private members' business day. It has never, to my knowledge, precluded the laying of reports by the government following the normal listing of the order of business under Standing Order 14.1. So I don't agree Madam Speaker, pardon me. There is a reference being made to Standing Order 14.3 as well, which I have not referred to specifically, but I have referred to in substance in terms of it provides that on Thursdays, private members' notices of motions shall have precedence on the order paper, followed by private members' bills, followed by government business. Madam Speaker, government business is on the, if you look at section 14 or Standing Order 14.1, government business is typically referred to, if you look at subsection L, government business is typically referred to as 1, bills, and 2, motions. So there is no, there is nothing in this, Madam Speaker, which suggests that the placing of reports on the table of the House is in conflict with subsection 3 of Standing Order 14. Standing Order 14.1, Madam Speaker, is quite clear. It sets out the typical order of business. It starts with prayer appropriately, as we do every time in this House, even on Thursdays. We have administration of oaths or affirmations. We have reading by the presiding officer of messages and announcements. We have presentation of petitions. We have presentation of papers and of reports of select and standing committees by laying them on the table. We then go on to questions to members. We then go on to statements by members of the government. We then go on to personal explanations, then obituary and other ceremonial speeches, then raising of matters of privilege, then other business, motions first, bills second, then government business, bills and motions. Madam Speaker, there is nothing in that which suggests that the laying of annual reports on the table of this Honourable House is typically considered government business. No more than the typical start to our meetings as we do, having a prayer. Madam Speaker, this is normal to lay reports, even on private members' day on Thursdays. And I'm afraid that all of the effort that we're going to here is just going to delay things even further. To me, it's simply not worth it. We should just move on. It is not going to impact the ability to get to those motions. Perhaps I'm not going to guarantee we get to every motion because I don't have control over all of that. But I would say that we're going to have the majority of them, if not all of them. And I'm prepared to work late to make sure that each motion gets heard and each member who has brought a motion with a seconder has the opportunity to have their motions dealt with, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, let me reiterate, I'm not about stopping government from laying their reports. But I don't agree with the Premier on his setting out of the arrangement of business, because it says nothing here. It says other business, and then it mentions what that other business is. Motions and bills. Government business, bills, motions. It says nothing about reports. And specifically, no committee of this House, none, can override the standing orders unless it's specifically moved. Unless it's specifically moved. And what it says here, 2. That's one he read, but you need to read 2. On all days other than Thursdays, government business shall have precedence over private members' business. And 3, on Thursdays, private members' notices of motions, which mean the notices have been placed and accepted, have precedence on the order paper, followed by private members' bills, followed by government business. That's what this says, and no committee can override that. And we have not given any committee permission to override it. And all I'm asking is, I don't want for the members not to lay their reports, because they can do that tomorrow as well. They can do that later on as well. But today is set aside for members to debate, and we have 8 members, and members take time these days to explain their report. And that is what has taken up the time. Right now, we should be well on the way to business. But I had to raise this because of what has happened before. I had a motion. I never heard no more hear about it. It went to a committee. I can't hear nothing about it. And I don't want these important motions, because I tell you, all of them that I've seen table are very important matters, some to do with constituency and some to do with the wider country. So we need to understand that we should be dealing with them first, after the normal matters are dealt with. The normal matters being the administration of oaths and or affirmations, the reading by the Honourable Speaker of messages and announcements, presentation of petitions, presentation of petitions, and then we should do the questions, because that is private members' business.
Madam Speaker, may I trouble you?
Sorry, Madam Speaker, and all I'm saying, sorry, my apologies to the senior member on the opposition side. I am saying that the Premier show goodwill, because there is no overriding circumstances against the motion other than members who will vote or vote for or vote against. And if he moves the motion, then that's it. But I can't agree that we can step aside. And we have been doing it for too long. But I have been here for nearly 40 years. And I know that those days were sacrosanct. to the private member who don't have no other way but to speak on matters and days like that. They were sacrosanct. And even if a report was laid, it was laid and nobody said anything. Members today wants to explain, and perhaps they do need to explain, and in some depth. So I wouldn't go against that, but not today, not first.
Madam Speaker, I will trouble you just for one last time, regardless of how this goes. But I go back to first principles. The House has not met in 5 months. There has been no opportunity for members who are not part of the government to express, unless you go on the radio, their concerns about the governing of this country. The standing orders allow the government 4 days for their business to take precedence. 1 day is Thursday. The House started an hour late today. We have 17 reports. That's going to take another hour and a half. So, Madam Speaker, aside from the fact that doing it as the Business Committee has done is clearly, in my view, in breach of Standing Order 14.2, which says on all days other than Thursdays, government business shall have precedence over private members' business. It's just inequitable for the government to take up best part of half of the legislative day doing its business, because unless the Premier is suggesting that these reports are not government business, because if it's not government business, it shouldn't be on the paper, because they certainly are not private members' business. I don't know whose business it is if it's not government business. And so, Madam Speaker, I ask the Premier to be reasonable and to let their private members' business proceed, and he can do his reports. His government can do their reports tomorrow. They can come Saturday if they want. I'll be here.
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, my issue with the approach taken by the member from Red Bay is the suggestion that this is somehow untypical, that this is not in accordance with the standing orders. It is not in breach of the standing orders, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what this represents, this order paper represents the same approach that has been taken by the last two administrations. It is very typical, very common. It does not reflect any attempt at not acting in good faith or anything to that extent. Madam Speaker, the Business Committee considered that the motions that the opposition, the official opposition, were bringing were going to be motions that could be dispensed with sooner. Madam Speaker, that is the rationale behind having them dealt with in that manner. Madam Speaker, we have just wasted a lot more time here back and forth on this when we could have been dealing with things and moving on. But Madam Speaker, to make it absolutely clear that this government is not acting against the interest or acting in bad faith in any way, and is certainly not desirous of being perceived as being unreasonable, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will move a motion for the suspension of Standing Order 14.1 under Standing Order 86, and move a motion to reorder the business so that private members' motion number 8, which is listed as item 3, private members' motion number 9, which is listed as item 4, Roman 4, and private members' motion number 10, which is listed as Roman 5, be placed at the top of the list of motions, Madam Speaker, in accordance with the order paper set out for today.
Member for Red Bay.
Madam Speaker, the Premier has just added insult to injury. The member from West Bay West is part of his government. So now what he's done to compound the breach of private members' business taking precedence over government business, because he's still proceeding with the laying of his reports, he now promotes the member for West Bay West's motions. And I think the third one must be, I don't know who the third one is. 3 motions above the opposition's, Her Majesty's loyal opposition's motions, so that it is pure government business, not just the cabinet business, but the backbench business as well, ahead of the opposition.
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, this, Madam Speaker, I think it truly is some form of mischief, Madam Speaker. This issue, to my mind, is about the question of where the motions fall, Madam Speaker. I have already articulated, and I have read through Standing Order 14.1, and I've referred to Standing Order 14.3, which and 14.2, which says, on all other days other than Thursdays, government business shall take precedence. But, Madam Speaker, items under Standing Order 14.1A through K are not discussed as government business. Government business is described under Standing Order 14.1L, beginning with bills and then followed by motions, Madam Speaker. The order of precedence for dealing with the business of this honorable House is set out in all of the items for the agenda for the business of this House above L. So 14.1A through K. Madam Speaker, the delivery or tabling of statements would fall within that area of the order of business. And it is done, it has been done that way in the administration that I was a part of, and every other administration that I have seen operate on a Thursday. If the government has annual reports to lay, it can be laid on the table, and typically they aren't even spoken to at all, but typically if they are, it's very brief. Madam Speaker, we're going to stand up here and argue about this and waste so much time now. My issue is simply that I do not accept that this represents a breach, because to suggest that it is a breach is to impugn the motives of the Standing Business Committee, which has, by resolution of this Honourable House, the remit, Madam Speaker, to determine the business of this House on every day that the House sits, in accordance with the standing orders. Exactly. Yes, and I have just articulated, Madam Speaker, why the suggestion that laying reports ahead of the motions, the private members' motions being dealt with, is not a breach, is not unreasonable, is not unfair. But particularly, it is not a breach. I do not accept that it represents some kind of breach. Now, if the member wants to, by virtue of being a member of the Standing Orders Review Committee, argue that issue to be reflected properly in the standing orders, in any new standing orders, he may do that. But on the basis of these standing orders, his accusations and allegations are unfounded, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Premier, you did rise a few minutes ago to move a motion. Before we get back to that point, I just need to take a quick 5-minute break. I seem to have picked up the wrong notes here. So I'm going to just take 5 minutes. That'll give you all time to determine what you're doing, and I'll come back to see if we're going to move forward with a motion to amend. Please be seated. Proceedings are resumed. Thank you for your patience. When I left, we had a motion on the floor by the Honorable Premier. I believe, let me see if I can find my notes. Motion to rearrange private member motion 8, 9, and 10 so that 8, 9, and 10 come before motion 11 and 12. Do I have that? Sorry, private member motion 11 and 12. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no?
No. Madam Speaker, may we have a division, please? And the Minister of Tourism was not in his seat when the vote was taken.
Honourable Wayne Panton.
Aye.
Honourable Julianne O'Connor Connolly. Aye. Honourable Kenneth Bryan. No vote. Honourable, not in the seat. Honourable Sabrina Turner. Aye. Honourable Johanny Ebanks. Honourable Andre Ebanks.
Aye.
Honourable Barney Bush, not in his seat. Honourable Dwayne Seymour, absent. Honourable Isaac Rankin.
Aye.
Ms. Heather Bodden.
Not in my seat.
Honourable McKeever Bush. Honourable Roy McTaggart.
No.
Mr. Joseph Hugh.
No.
Honourable Sir Alden McLaughlin.
No.
Mr. Moses Kirkconnell.
No.
Ms. Barbara Connolly.
No.
Mr. David White.
No.
Mr. Christopher Saunders. Absent.
You know the pastor, Christian's own picnic for us?
I have 7 ayes, 6 noes, and 5 absentees. The ayes have it. Private member motion 8, 9, and 10 has now been rearranged to come before private member motion 11 and 12. Honourable members, this still does not address the matter that was raised by the member for Red Bay. Does the member for Red Bay wish to continue with what you were raising in relation to a motion?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it requires me to move a motion with respect to the laying of reports. And so with your permission, Madam Speaker, I move that order number 5 on the order paper, presentation of papers and of reports, be moved to the end of the order paper following the last private member's motion.
Is there a seconder?
Madam Speaker, I second the motion.
Isn't that just what we just did?
No.
That what he did? Thank you.
Question is that the the order paper is rearranged to have the private member motions addressed before the reports. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
No.
May we have a division, ma'am?
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, on a minutia procedural matter, a division can only be called after you say the results, even though the practical effect is the same.
I believe that the noes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May we have a division, please?
Thank you.
Everyone in their seats? Honorable Wayne Panton?
No.
Honorable Juliana O'Connor-Connolly?
No.
Honorable Kenneth Bryan?
No.
Honorable Sabrina Turner?
No.
Honorable Johanny Ebanks?
No.
Honorable Andre Ebanks?
No.
Honorable Bernie Bush? No. Honorable Dwayne Seymour? Absent. Honorable Isaac Rankin? Ms. Heather Bodden? No. Honorable McKeeva Bush?
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, I don't know what we're doing.
Honorable member for...
Madam Speaker, can you take 1 minute to say the reports will still come on the order paper? Am I right?
Correct.
Aye.
Just after.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Roy McTaggart?
Aye.
Mr. Joseph Hugh?
Aye.
Honorable Sir Alden McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Moses Kirkconnell?
Aye.
Ms. Barbara Connolly?
Aye.
Mr. David White?
Aye.
Mr. Christopher Sanders? Absent.
Results of the division, I have 7 ayes, 9 noes, and 2 absentees. The noes have it.
Administration of oaths or affirmations.
None.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of messages and announcements.
None.
Presentation of petitions.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Sister Island Affordable Housing Development Corporation annual report for the year ended 31st of December 2021 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of District Administration and Lands.
The Honourable Minister of District Administration and Lands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the report with respect to Sister Islands Affordable Housing Development Corporation for the year ended 31st of December 2021.
Does the Honourable Member wish to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Government of the Cayman Islands, Cayman National Culture Foundation annual financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2016 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports and Heritage.
Madam Speaker, beg to lay on the table of this House, Honorable House, the annual financial statement for the year ending 30th of June 2016 for the Cayman National Cultural Foundation.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak?
No. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Three, Government of the Cayman Islands Children and Youth Services Foundation Annual Report for the year ended 31st of December 2021, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Investment, Innovation and Social Development.
The Honourable Minister of Investment, Innovation and Social Development.
Good morning and thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report ended 31 December 2021 for the Children and Youth Services Foundation.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Office of the Ombudsman report on election registration and proceedings of processing of voter data, April 2022, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the report from the Office of the Ombudsman, report on the election registration and processing of voter data, dated April 2022.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I just remind members to wait until I acknowledge your name before you speak. Do you wish to speak to the report?
Madam Speaker, I wanted to say that I'd like to say thank you to a lot of the hard work that the President Ombudsman and her staff is trying to get things in shape, and this is another good piece of work. Thank you.
Yeah. 2021-2022 Annual Report of the Standing Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman.
The Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2021-2022 Annual Report of the Standing Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak there too?
No, just once again to say that the Ombudsman and her staff is working really hard to get this most important section of our system into top shape, that it can represent Caymanians where they have to be represented. Thank you very much.
OFREG 2019 Annual Report. OFREG 2020 Annual Report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning.
Honourable Minister of Planning.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report for 2019 for OFREG and annual report for 2020 for OFREG.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak there too?
No, ma'am, both reports are self-explanatory, sorry.
No. Ministry of Border Control and Labour, Cayman Islands Government Annual Report 2021, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Border Control and Labour.
Honourable Minister of Border Control and Labour.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report of the Ministry of Border Control and Labour for the financial period ending 31st of December 2021.
Does Honourable Minister wish to speak there too?
No, Madam Speaker, just to say that on April the 20th, 2022, the Auditor General issued an unqualified or clean opinion. Thank you.
Parliament Management Commission Annual Report 2021, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier.
The Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I rise to seek your permission to lay on the table of this Honourable House the report for the Parliament Management Commission, the annual report for 2021.
Honourable Premier, do you wish to speak there too?
Thank you for your permission to lay that report, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think it is self-explanatory, and I commend the report to members and the public. Thank you.
Cayman Islands Airport Authority 2018 Annual Report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to lay on the floor of this Honourable House the Cayman Islands Airports Authority 2018 Annual Report.
Does Honourable Minister wish to speak there too?
No, Madam Speaker, but to thank the CEO and the staff at the Airports Authority and the former chairman for the completion of the report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Office of the Auditor General, Cayman Islands, the government's shift to online service, June 2022. Report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee and the report of the Office of the Auditor General. Government's shift to online service, June 2022, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House a report of the Office of the Auditor General entitled The Government's Shift to Online Services, together with the report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Office of the Auditor General, Government's Shift to Online Services to June 2022.
I'm sorry, do you wish to speak there too?
Yeah?
Just checking to see if you'd like to speak,
speak
to
there
the...
too.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, thank you, Madam Speaker, except just to mention that we did hold hearings on the report in October of 2022, and all of the information regarding recommendations are contained in the reports.
Office of the Auditor General, Cayman Islands, follow-up on past PAC recommendations, 2022, Report 3, September 2022, Report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, on the report of the Office of the Auditor General, follow-up on past PAC recommendations, 2022, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House a report from the Office of the Auditor General entitled Follow-up on Past PAC Recommendations 2022, Report Number 3, together with the report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Office of the Auditor General, follow up on past PAC recommendations 2022, report number 3 of September 2022.
Does the member wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, just to mention that hearings were held in November of last year with regard to the report. The details are all contained in the report itself and the report of the Parliament, of the Public Accounts Committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
2021-2022 Annual Report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the floor of this Honourable House, on the table of this Honourable House, the 2021-2022 Annual Report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak there too?
Madam Speaker, just to mention specifically that the report documents all of the activities of the Standing Public Accounts Committee for the 2021-2022 year, and I commend a report to members and to the public.
Office of the Auditor General, Cayman Islands. Overview of the Cayman Islands performance against the Sustainable Development Goals focused on the environment. March 23, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House a report from the Office of the Auditor General entitled Overview of the Cayman Islands Performance Against the Sustainable Development Goals Focused on the Environment.
Does the member wish to speak there too?
Madam Speaker, just briefly to say that the report is one of a factual nature only. The committee did not hold public hearings on it. There are no recommendations in it. It was a fact-finding, gathering and reporting for the benefit of the Parliament and for the public. But I do commend the report. It makes for an interesting read. Thank you.
Questions to honourable ministers and members of Cabinet.
We have gone beyond the hour of 11 a.m., so I would like to call for a motion to suspend Standing Order 23, 7, and 8.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move, pursuant to Standing Order 86, the suspension of Standing Order 23, 7, and 8 in order to allow the putting or answering of questions after the hour of 11.
Question is that Standing Orders 23, 7, and 8 be suspended to allow questions to be asked after the hour of 11 a.m. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Members, I know we are at that point in the program or the order paper where we're going to go into questions. However, lunch has arrived. I think it's probably a good time for us to break for lunch while it's hot. No? Okay. Members are more inclined to continue now with the questions. So if there's a member in the chambers that's hungry, you can excuse yourself while the questions are being conducted.
The elected member for Georgetown West to ask the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage question number 15.
The elected member for Georgetown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honorable Minister advise the House on the facts regarding the controversy at the 2023 Carifta Games involving the Cayman Islands Athletic Association and the Caymanian Carifta shot put gold medalists?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Ministry of Youth, Sport, Culture and Heritage primary focus when it comes to national sporting associations of our identified focus sports is grant funding. The Ministry does not interfere, restrict, or choose the makeup of the NSA boards and their operational administration meetings. However, it does hold progress meetings with each NSA to offer guidance if needed. With the recent establishment of the National Sports Commission, the Commission will, 1, provide the leadership in the formulation of the national policies and the setting of priorities and direction of all youth and sporting programs and activities in the Cayman Islands. 2, governance and work to improve standards and accountability of youth and sport activities and organizations. And 3, be the responsible body for monitoring the implementation of the National Youth and Sports Policy. Madam Speaker, as it relates directly to the question asked from the elected member for Georgetown West, it is the understanding of the Ministry that a complete response was already presented to the Leader of Opposition from the Cayman Islands Athletic Association. This response, having now been provided directly from the association in question, therefore supersedes a response from the same from the Ministry. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any supplementary questions?
Just to thank the Minister for his reply. Thank you.
The elected member for Georgetown North to ask the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness and Home Affairs, question number 16.
The Honourable Member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask a question in my name to the Honourable Minister of Health, Wellness and Home Affairs. The question is, can the Honourable Minister advise whether any improvements have been made to the management of the Georgetown landfill, including compacting and covering the waste material, and whether the DEH is continuing to regularly douse the landfill with water in an effort to prevent fires?
Honourable Minister for Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Department of Environmental Health, DEH, or the department engages in constant improvement as it relates to landfill management. In general terms, Madam Speaker, site management involves weighing, sorting, and recording data on all materials received at the tipping area. Waste that is landfilled is placed on the mound and compacted with available equipment. Madam Speaker, due to constant use of the fleet and equipment, the DEH admittedly deals with machine shortage and breakdowns, which affects does not halt service delivery. The 3 primary pieces of equipment needed for compacting and coverage are an excavator, a compactor, and bulldozer. Now, during episodes of equipment failure, the DEH partners with private subcontractors for equipment rentals. However, Madam Speaker, I am pleased to advise that a new excavator arrived in October of 2022, and it is in operation. A new compactor, Madam Speaker, was delivered on the 13th of April, and it is expected to be in operation within the next 4 weeks. A new bulldozer, Madam Speaker, is expected to be delivered in June of this year. Once all are fully functioning, compaction rates and coverage usage will increase, thereby enhancing the DEH landfill operations. Madam Speaker, the site is being filled in accordance with a tipping plan to cover, which is the material used is marl, is applied when it is available from local suppliers. The Department of DEH aims to do this monthly, but are challenged given that they are competing with contractors and may have to wait on an order based on demand for the actual product. As it relates to dousing the site, Madam Speaker, it is not feasible to continually apply water to the landfill with the intention of reducing a fire risk. As such, the DEH does not carry out this function. As we can appreciate, the site is prone to frequent flares, even on a small scale. And on those occasions, Madam Speaker, the Cayman Islands Fire Service is called upon to intervene. Fire officers will use water to control and identify outbreaks. However, these operations stops once the fire has been extinguished and the all clear has been given by the fire officers on the scene.
Honourable Member for Georgetown North, you have a supplemental question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have a couple. Madam Speaker, I thank the Minister for this answer. And I wonder, Madam Speaker, if the Minister could advise as to why it is going to take almost 7 weeks for a bulldozer to become operational. Is it a budget constraint? Is it a labor constraint? What are the reasons why a bulldozer, a compactor rather, my apologies, Madam, a compactor, which is a key piece of equipment to the maintenance of the landfill, which has been absent for quite some time now, why is it taking 7 weeks to get this piece of equipment moving? I hope that the Honourable Minister can shed some light on that.
Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was reliably informed that the compactor actually had delays with scheduling based on its sheer size for shipment, and it doesn't come as a whole piece of equipment. It has to come in parts where the wheels and then the experts or the persons from the liner which it was ordered comes on island to assemble it. So that is the reason for the delays. It doesn't come all assembled.
Are there any other supplementary questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just want to confirm with the Honourable Minister that the time frame between the 13th of April, which was delivered on island, to becoming operational within the next 4 weeks is to assemble the equipment.
What I've been reliably informed. Yes, sir.
Honourable Member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I guess I should have added this on to it. In fact, I'll make it a much broader question, Madam Speaker. Can the Honourable Minister confirm that the budget is in place for the operators of this equipment, as well as for the purchasing of the marl that's needed to layer and therefore compact the equipment? So I just want confirmation from the Minister that the necessary budgets are there for the staff to carry out the maintenance of the landfill.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, with what information has been shared with me from my ministry, I'm confident that at this appointed time with this specific budget up until 2023, that we are okay when it comes to funding. That is one of the main things we're securing. Sufficient funding for the right equipment was secured from this government being elected into office. We are in the process right now of preparing the budget, taking us into the next 2 years, pretty much 3 years. I will make sure that my colleagues understand the importance of this. But what information that has been shared with me at this time, I'm comfortable in saying that we should be financially okay.
Member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the honourable member for that response. It provides some comfort. Madam Speaker, can I also ask the honourable member, out of concern recently within the District of Georgetown North, in particular around the Parkway, Kintyre areas, there's been quite a bit of social media activity showing some videos with a white sludge coming from the culverts that come across the road from the landfill side over to the West Bay Road side. Can the minister let me know if there has been any testing done of that water to ensure that there's potentially no harm to not only the environment but the residents in the area?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Testing has been done, and that does not pose a risk. And again, I have been reliably informed that the NRA installed all drainage systems from Parkway Drive running under the Esterly-Tibbetts Highway, which flows into the North Sound. Given its proximity to the landfill as the pipes run alongside the site, it is perceived that DEH is responsible for that, or that the water that is being referred to is coming directly from the landfill, but that is not the case. This system is not a concern for DEH, and any issues should be redirected to the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, who deals with the NRA.
Honourable Member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the Minister for that answer. I guess I'll have to wait until we're back in the House again to redirect those questions to DOE and NRA. But what I can tell the Minister is that, in particular with the recent tides, the water is actually flowing into the dike roads. If you were to travel into Washington Boulevard right now, the area commonly known as the swamp, you will see that the water is actually on the main road coming from the North Sound, and you can visually see the flow coming back towards the West Bay Road, and that is the same thing that is happening along the Esterly-Tibbetts Highway. And with that flow, you can physically see the videos show it clearly where the water is flowing from the dike adjacent to the landfill under the Esterly-Tibbetts into the series of dike roads that run along the Esterly-Tibbetts Highway to the west, on the west side of the highway. And persons are genuinely concerned, so I guess I will have to wait until we're back in again, or hopefully, or perhaps I could ask that the minister responsible for the Department of Environment perhaps could have a look and then provide information to the public to or even if not the general public, send it to myself, and then I can provide that information to the residents to let them feel assured that there's nothing to be concerned about. It's a very genuine request. Madam Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I think if I could just close with a quick comment on this line of questioning. I thank the Minister for her candidness and her responses. I support the Minister and the DEH in hopes that hopefully we can get this equipment up and running shorter than 4 weeks. And also, I would encourage the minister to speak to her team. I think even the Honorable Premier, in one of his responses in my many previous questions on this topic, cited that it is the industry standard is 24 to 48 hours for compacting and layering. I think once a month, especially if we are trying to stretch this landfill over the next 6 years, when we hopefully have the waste management. What's the timeline for Israel? 26? 2 years? 3 years. But we still have to stretch. We have to make the current tipping area work for the next 3 years. And the more we compact, the more we layer, the less chance of fires and the longer the landfill will last. So I just implore the minister and the government, if there is a way, through funding, through sourcing materials, that we can do it a bit more than once a month, at a minimum, ensure that it's done once a month. The people of Georgetown North would really appreciate it.
I recognize the member for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is the minister in a position to give an update on equipment and plans for the landfill in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman?
Honorable Minister for Health, Wellness and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've been reliably informed that there's equipment expected to go to the BRAC. There's a second excavator that is planned for over there. And just personally visiting that site more than once, I do agree that we will be focusing as a ministry more our attention in collaboration, of course, under the guidance of the Director of DEH, to improve how waste is actually handled at that current site. But you will notice the other day that we sent over a new garbage truck, and you will continue to see as equipment arrives on island. And I'm very grateful for my colleagues in supporting my ask as we entered into resuming our positions, understanding the importance of getting the right equipment in a timely manner in order to do this very job. But the Sister Islands has not been forgotten, and you will see where we will definitely show an improvement in the equipment that will be sent over there. So it's not just in Grand Cayman, but equipment is en route to, or in short order, will be brought over to our Sister Islands.
Honourable Member for Cayman Brac West.
I'd like to thank the minister for her answer and for her interest in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Thank you.
The elected member for Georgetown North to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure question number 17.
Honourable Member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise once again to ask a question in my name to the Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure. And the question reads, Madam Speaker, can the Honourable Minister update the House on the progress with the government's proposed undersea telecoms cable, as well as an update on any other subsea telecom cables proposed by private sector entities?
Honourable Minister for Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, please allow me to provide an update to the elected member for Georgetown North on questions regarding the Cayman Islands Government International Subsea Telecommunication System Initiative. As an essential and critical infrastructure, the government has prioritized this initiative recognizing that the existing systems are rapidly aging. The Maya 1 that has served the Cayman Islands, providing the international communication going into its 23rd year, is approaching its end of life, and its expectations is that it will be closed at 25 years. The other system is the Cayman Jamaica fiber system, is 26 years and also vulnerable. Madam Speaker, considering the infrastructure is responsible for 99% of the international communications and to from these islands, we take this matter seriously. With this understanding of the potential dilemma at hand, my team has acted accordingly and delivered an outlined business case report that explored and developed the options for replacing the system. The report has confirmed the existing systems are at risk and the government must act swiftly if the local telecom sectors will not. Cabinet has now reviewed the options put forward in the business case and authorized the Ministry of PAI to go to the market to confirm what interests exist for building the cable system independently or explore or identify a worthwhile partner investor to the Cayman Islands government. Madam Speaker, following the step, understanding the market or investor interests, then it is that the development of a full business case, this is obtained, the final specification actually cost to build the system and provide a detailed solution for Cabinet to review for its approval. And I'm glad to say that this shall be going out hopefully this week, Madam Speaker.
Are there any supplementary questions?
Yeah, you have a second part, yeah.
Honorable Minister, please continue.
Madam Speaker, to my knowledge, several private sector entities, both local and overseas, have approached the government as there is no capacity to build the submarine cable system on island. These entities proposing to build the submarine cable system that are passing by the Cayman Islands from the U.S. onwards to the Central and South America, the outline business case reports has evaluated some of these proposals and made recommendations accordingly. Additionally, Madam Speaker, I have heard of local entities representing some of the larger international systems proposing to land a branch system that provides a bandwidth of the Cayman Islands. However, I have no detailed information on any other subsea telecom cable proposed by a private sector.
Are there any supplemental questions? Elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to thank the Minister for the detailed answer. And I just want to confirm, Madam Speaker, that to date, where we are at now, is that the government is moving towards a full business case on the modern subsea cable. And if that is so, what are the timelines for that business case to be completed?
Honorable Minister, Planning, Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, as far as I know, right to the minute, ma'am, I don't mind providing more information to the honorable member from Georgetown North, but everything was completed and the RFP was to go out this week, is what I was told on Tuesday.
Are there any other supplemental questions?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, thank you to the Honourable Minister for the response. Madam Speaker, I just want to confirm with the Honourable Minister, I know in the 2022-2023 budget there was $15 million funding for this subsea telecoms cable. I just want to confirm, Madam Speaker, that that funding is still in place and that the Minister feels confident that he has the funding to continue with the outline business case and progress towards what we're all looking forward to, and that is a modern subsea cable.
Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture and Housing.
Madam Speaker, we know the funding that we have right to current isn't significant enough to complete the submarine cable, and I am hoping and I'm pretty sure that the government is in full support of making sure that we have the funding in the budget coming up, that we can continue on. It would be a shame for us not to continue with it after we've gotten this far and seeing how of national importance it is, not only to the country, but to the financial sector and everybody else around here.
Elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would just like to thank the Honourable Minister for his responses and look forward to seeing progress on this very important project.
The elected member for Red Bay to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure question number 18.
The elected member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure question number 18 on the order paper standing in my name, which reads as follows. Can the Honourable Minister provide an update on the progress of the A.D. Sanchez Memorial Park in Red Bay and Prospect?
Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, the Eddie Sanchez Park, which is envisioned as an integral gathering and recreation space for the neighborhoods of Red Bay and Prospect, has seen substantial improvement over the past year. In addition to the cabanas, a walking track at the park, a sidewalk along the Prospect Drive has been built, allowing for a safer travel by pedestrians. The parking lot has been asphalted and parking space defined. The park has also benefited by installation of a partial landscaping, including the planting of 3 mature trees and the spreading of 300 cubic yards of topsoil. Scheduled for the second quarter of 2023 is the spreading of an additional 300 cubic yards of topsoil in preparation of seeding and turfing of the playfield and fencing along Prospect Drive to fully enclose the parking area, and a chip and spray along the Prospect Drive side of the park, and the drilling of 2 deep wells.
Does the elected member have any supplemental questions?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, not really, just to thank the Minister for moving this along and to say how welcome it will be when the fence along the Prospect Drive side of the park is completed to discourage the parking of vehicles, particularly those that are abandoned or derelict, which continues to be a problem in that area. Thanks again to the Minister.
The elected member for Georgetown West to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure question number 19.
The elected member for Georgetown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure the question number 19 standing in my name. Can the Honourable Minister state when the Deloitte report with the recommendations on public transportation will be made public, along with the terms of reference that form the basis of the report?
The Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, as this Honourable House is aware, this subject of public transport has just been recently transferred to the Ministry. We are currently reviewing the subject matter and will provide a further update to this Honourable House in due course. Madam Speaker, just to give a little bit more heads up, my team has just set a time frame for next week for us to actually sit down to dissect that whole report to see how we will be moving forward. So shortly I will be making a statement on that in the following weeks on that report.
Are there any supplemental questions? Elected member for Georgetown West.
I appreciate that the Minister has only recently been handed responsibility for public transport, but can he explain why it took this government 18 months to commence this consultancy study when we know that the Ministry was preparing the necessary documentation during the last administration?
Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, I'm almost wondering whether this question is worthy for me getting up. I mean, as he was aware, it just got transferred over to me. So if it is a question that he would like to pose to the minister that had it before, then I would pass it on to him, sir.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to assist my colleague, as I was the minister responsible up until recently.
Please speak into your mic.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. I just rise to try to assist this Honourable House and the member who asked the question in relation to the timing. As you're aware, once it was under... Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if the mic has some problems, but I'm speaking reasonably loud.
I think it's because you're a little taller. You're a little further away from the mic.
Madam Speaker, the answer to the question in respect to the timeline is quite simple. We issued the report almost a year ago. The report is a very technical one, has a lot of elements in respect to renewables and electric buses, and there's a lot of reports that had to be collected from the various agencies, as the opposition has acknowledged in other reiterations in this House, that is a very complex problem in trying to offer the government a complete solution. Also, unfortunately, the key person in the report recently had a passing in their family, which delayed the completion of the report for our assessment through government until the transfer of the ministry to the Honourable Minister Ebanks. I tried to give as much updates to the members as how far we were going. But, Madam Speaker, I must say, though, that the members' viewpoint that the former government had stuff in the works before we took office is not factual, Madam Speaker, because there was not a formal report issued. There was one internally done as to what to do about derelict vehicles and so forth, done by the former elected member for Prospect. But it was not done with any, in my humble opinion, specialist advice and determination of a complete public transport system. Also within that report is discussions about the necessary regulatory changes to the law in order to have a complete public transport system. Now, Madam Speaker, I am going to continue to help transfer what I have learned over the last 2 years dealing with the matter, or I should say last year and a half, because we were focusing on COVID for the first 6 months, to my colleague, and I know that his chief officer and his team is already in full depth dive of the report, and like the Minister has said, will provide this Honourable House a full detailing as soon as that is available. Hopefully, Madam Speaker, that will assist this Honourable House.
Elected member for Georgetown West, are there any other supplemental questions?
Madam Speaker, thank you. I appreciate that the responsibility for public transport has just been transferred to the Honourable Minister's ministry, but they are a unified government, so I think that they should all know what's going on, and I would like to just ask a question. Will the Minister confirm that funding to implement whatever solution emerges from the consultancy report will be provided in the 2023-24 budget?
Honourable Minister for Planning, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, I would just tell the honourable member just to stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
The elected member for Red Bay to ask the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness and Home Affairs question number 20.
The elected member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am to ask the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness and Home Affairs. Question number 20, standing in my name, which reads as follows. Can the Honourable Minister update Parliament as to when the mental health facility will be completed and operational?
Honourable Minister for Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the long-term residential mental health facility located in High Rock East End, physical building construction has been completed. The site comprised of 3 main buildings. They are the administration building, the cafeteria and kitchen building, and the workshop and activities building, which will also serve as the hurricane shelter for residents. All 9 cottages constructions has been completed, including all furniture and fittings have been installed. The surrounding landscape is also completed, including the road by NRA to around the facility. Pavers are currently being installed by the contractor to allow easier access between the cottages and the main buildings, which will be completed upon completion of the leveling of the wraparound road by NRA. I've been reliably informed that currently the focus of the contractors is to complete the finished punch list and painting requirements in preparation for mandatory building inspections related to electrical, plumbing, and the final certificate of occupancy inspections. The facility is designed that completed individual buildings may be staggered for occupancy and operation as completed and approved. Now, pending no delays, Madam Speaker, the inspection process with the inspection process, it is estimated that the site will be handed over, as I've been reliably informed, that's last week, to the ministry by the end of June of this year. The ministry is resourcing staff for the operation and delivery of services. It is the ministry's intention, Madam Speaker, that operations will commence 6 months after being awarded the building from contractors. Ministry is also working on putting in place the policy and procedures required to accept residents, both local and from overseas, Madam Speaker, based on the admission criteria. I've also been reliably informed by my team that it is anticipated that the facility will be in full operations by early 2024.
Are there any supplemental questions? Honourable Member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was trying to recall when construction on this project started, but I think it must be 4 years now. Granted, there was COVID and tools were down for a considerable amount of time, but that should have only served to give the ministry and the others concerned more lead time in which to decide on what human resources and expertise was needed to operate the mental health facility. Why is it going to take 6 months from the turnover of the building, and the date of which is still uncertain, before the mental health facility can be made operational and provide the extremely needed care for that sector of our community? What has caused such an inordinate delay in getting the staffing and programming that is necessary for this facility in place? And may I ask, so that I don't have to ask another supplementary, could the minister tell us what has been done thus far in that regard?
Honourable Minister for Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one would appreciate upon taking office that the Ministry of Health and Wellness, under the responsibility for this project, was pretty much totally submerged into the reopening and COVID regulations. As a new administration, this remains at the forefront, and this project did not take the back burner. But I must admit that my ministry in itself, practically for a year and a half, was totally invested in getting our country, our island, reopened as safely as possible. And the primary focus is at that time, with the limited staffing that was on hand, our primary focus was at that time in COVID regulations. Since then, we have maintained open dialogue and communication, and once the information has become available to us, we are informing and updating the public as the information becomes available to us. In all of these, the opening dates and so forth, we must understand that the groundbreaking did take place on the 8th of October 2019. After that, we know, as you rightly stated, that the country was in lockdown. We've underwent a number of delays from what I have been reported in regards to Hurricane Grace. Now we're dealing with supply chain shortages. And one of the biggest delays, based on what I have been told, was most recently the electrical with the backup generator and getting that piece of equipment here. As I've reported to this honorable House, that all of that has now been put behind us, and we're just waiting for the final inspections to be concluded in order for CO to actually be given to the ministry. As it pertains to the recruitment process, the ministry is currently in the recruiting process for the director of the facility and other key senior management posts. And for what I have been advised by my senior management team, that they were in the shortlisting phase of the director. I will provide the member with a more detailed response in writing, because that arm of employment falls under the direct remit of my chief officer and other senior management team. I hope that that satisfies the members' queries at this time.
Are there any supplemental questions?
Statements by honorable ministers and members of the cabinet?
None.
Personal explanations?
None.
Obituary and other ceremonial speeches?
Members, I just want to take this opportunity, just take a few minutes to acknowledge the accomplishments of another Caymanian who just successfully completed their doctorate degree. I must admit that in this instance, I have bragging rights, as this individual happens to be my sister-in-law, Miss Sylvia Wilkes. And my family received news last night that she successfully completed her doctorate in strategic leadership with an emphasis in global consulting. So I just wanted to acknowledge the accomplishments of another Caymanian who I'm hoping will be able to return and contribute to the Cayman Islands.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to put on record the passing of another West Bay stalwart citizen and businessman, a forerunner in many areas of business in West Bay, notably his bakery. That is now the late Mr. Bergman Ebanks, who passed away yesterday. And he was a personal friend, known to me as Buggy. And he was, as I said, a forerunner in several business areas. He was certainly a good father, and I certainly appreciated the work he'd done, his interest he took in the community. And I do want to make note of sincere condolences to his good wife, Miss Treaty, and their family.
Thank you, Honourable Member for West Bay West. I echo the sentiments that you have just shared about the late Mr. Bergman Ebanks, who too was a dear friend and constituent of mine, and I offer condolences to his family.
Raising a matter of privileges?
None. Okay. Members, I think this is a good time for us to pause and take a suspension for the lunch hour. We will resume in 1 hour at 2 p.m.